It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
Sunny Hostin just took a brutal verbal beating on live TV, and it wasn't a fair fight. Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly didn't show up for polite conversation. They came in swinging. What unfolded felt less like a debate and more like a televised intellectual takedown, leaving viewers wondering if talk shows need their own version of the Geneva Conventions. One moment, Sunny was confidently leading the segment on The View, tea in hand like she had it all under control. And the next, she looked like she was scrambling to remember her talking points as the pressure mounted.
They're disgusting. She's Anna Navarro in your wildest imagination. You could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate.
It was that brutal. Sunny Hostin's face froze like she'd just opened a surprise six-figure phone bill. And honestly, viewers were eating it up. Picture this. Bill Maher dripping with sarcasm so dry it could spark a wildfire, and Megyn Kelly calmly dismantling arguments like a precision surgeon. Together, they tore through Sunny's talking points like hot knives through butter. That trademark soapbox she loves suddenly looked more like a wobbly IKEA chair slapped together at 2 a.m. with missing screws. This wasn't a debate, it was an intellectual demolition derby. Sunny rolled in with her usual law school swagger, flashing those courtroom credentials like she was the final boss in a legal drama. But Maher and Kelly, they showed up in mental monster trucks and didn't let up. No mercy, no fluff. Just a raw, unscripted takedown that left the view reeling and the audience wondering if Sunny would even want a rematch.
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So she was, everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But
let's be real. Sunny Hostin's favorite move is wielding that law degree like a Jedi lightsaber forged at the University of Supreme Smugness. Her resume practically deserves its own cape, but not even a Harvard-level flex could save her from the intellectual ambush she walked into. Former prosecutor, legal analyst, full-time finger-wagger. Sunny has titles for days, but the second she starts a sentence with "as a lawyer," you know you're in for something painfully obvious, wildly off base, or drenched in condescension. And sometimes all three at once. It's like a TED Talk gone rogue, hosted by someone who skimmed a textbook once and never let it go. She can turn literally anything into a monologue on injustice, TikTok trends, systemic racism, expired mayo, institutional neglect, a puppy adoption. Let's unpack the leash hierarchy. She doesn't join discussions. She hijacks them like a live-action Twitter thread. Loud, dramatic, perpetually offended, and missing the point on purpose. Even Whoopi's expressions scream, "Help!" But today was a crash and burn. Sunny didn't get clapped back. She got steamrolled.
That hot mess that they air in the mornings, called The View, had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections, 4 legal notes. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
Sunny Hostin didn't just lose the debate, she got bulldozed. Megyn Kelly and Bill Maher didn't show up to disagree. They brought a wrecking crew and dismantled her moral mansion brick by brick. All Sunny had left was her signature frown, the kind that says, "How dare you serve me cold soup in court?" Having strong opinions is one thing, but Sunny turns every topic into a full-blown sermon from Mount Condescension. In her mind, She's judge, jury, and the standing ovation, all in one. But Maher and Kelly don't play by her script. They shredded it. They didn't need applause or theatrics. They came armed with sharp logic, razor-dry wit, and facts that don't crack under pressure. Once those hit the table, Sunny's TED Talk energy collapsed into something closer to open mic night at a campus philosophy club, where the only punchline was her yelling louder in hopes of winning. No pivot, no rethink, just a full volume meltdown.
Any term you want.
Okay.
Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
Well, he's talking about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunny Hostin seems to think that yelling louder makes her sound smarter, but Bill Maher wasn't having it. He sat there calm, seasoned, and completely unbothered, watching her flail like a professor grading yet another freshman essay titled, "Why I'm Always Right." He didn't even need to interrupt. Her argument was collapsing under its own weight, like a soapbox made of wet cardboard and buzzwords. Every word she spoke came wrapped in that familiar preachy tone, like she was performing a monologue to the heavens. But all it did was dig her deeper into a self-made hole filled with recycled outrage, secondhand headlines, and enough smugness to fog up the camera lens. Then Megyn Kelly stepped in, calm, sharp, and laser-focused. No shouting, no theatrics, just clean, surgical dismantling. She peeled away the polished layers of Sunny's self-importance until there was nothing left but an echo chamber trying to pass as depth. Sunny may be a former federal prosecutor, self-declared legal expert, and full-time finger-wagger, but when she starts with her signature as a lawyer, line, you know what's coming, either a painfully obvious take, a wildly inaccurate claim, or a smug lecture thick enough to need a shovel. On a good day, she delivers all three in one breath.
And finally, new rule, stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Sunny Hostin has a truly uncanny talent. She can turn literally any topic into a thesis on race and injustice. Mention TikTok? Suddenly it's the downfall of society. Ask about mayonnaise? You're knee-deep in a rant on food deserts and systemic oppression. Even a wholesome puppy rescue somehow becomes a speech on leash privilege. It's like watching the Twitter algorithm come to life and start yelling. She doesn't join conversations, she hijacks them, like a moral escape room only she can solve. You can practically see Whoopi trying to astral project off the panel some days, eyebrows screaming, "Not again!" But this time wasn't just another eye-roll moment, it was a reckoning. Megyn Kelly and Bill Maher didn't come to trade polite disagreements. They came armed with facts, clarity, and zero tolerance for performative politics. They didn't argue, they dismantled. Sunny's favorite weapon, moral superiority, jammed mid-sentence, leaving only her trademark expression, righteous frustration. Maher and Kelly weren't extras in her courtroom fantasy. They flipped the script, set it on fire, and left her still monologuing into the smoke.
They had a discussion on The View about world superpowers from the sound of it. That's how they got into it. And Sunny Hostin made some comments about patriotism and America and Black America. It's all in there, Jason. I mean, it's all in there. I'm going to tee it up. It starts with Alyssa Farah, who's supposed to be the Republican commentator. And then you'll hear Sunny jump in. Listen.
If America is not the #1 global power, it's not going to be Denmark. It's going to be communist China, a country that right now the government is imprisoning Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. It is a deeply racist government. It's a human rights violating government. It is a government that if they're the leader of the free world, we are not a free world the way that we are right now.
The notion of patriotism and the notion of America and the American flag has been co-opted by the right as if they are true patriots. But when I listen to Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, he said white supremacy is the biggest domestic threat to this country.
On The View, where emotional drama often drowns out logic, Sunny Hostin seems to treat facts like hostile intruders. She hurls emotional smoke bombs, spinning every topic into a whirlwind of interpretive outrage. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly calmly delivers laser-precise facts, cutting through the noise with surgical accuracy. Each line stripped Sunny's arguments bare until all that remained was awkward silence and a trembling coffee cup. It felt like someone brought a glittery coloring book to a chess tournament and got mad when the grandmaster wouldn't color inside the lines. Every time Megyn cited logic, statistics, or, heaven forbid, history, you could almost see Sunny's thought process short-circuit. Her defense, retreating into a fortress of indignation, clutching moral outrage like a shield against reality. At times, it genuinely felt like she was arguing that 2 + 2 equals systemic injustice, and was offended when someone reached for a calculator. And when it comes to humor, Sunny treats sarcasm like a hate crime and satire like verbal assault. If it makes people laugh and think, she seems ready to cancel it on
will
sight.
be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States, yay, on January 20th of this month. Not everyone's happy about it, and many people would like us to be more focused on the insurrection that he personally unleashed. If you ask them, as we discussed earlier, they think it's as bad as like the Holocaust, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here is Sunny Hostin of The
January
View
6th was an
today.
atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
Yeah, the January 6th is right up there next to the Holocaust and slavery.
It's 2025, and Sunny Hostin still hasn't grasped the basic premise of comedy. Comedians roast everyone. That's the job. Expecting Bill Maher not to poke fun at public figures is like yelling at a bakery for selling bread. Yet every time Maher so much as breathes, Sunny acts like someone's reading her middle school diary out loud, complete with angsty poems and glittery doodles. She gasps, clutches her pearls, and fires off the classic, "How dare you?" as if taking offense turns into a legal objection mid-monologue. But the real spectacle? Her attempt to out-debate Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly in real time. She started lobbing historical references like a toddler flinging spaghetti, random, messy, and way off target. Legal jargon flew like confetti, half-formed and misused, sounding more like a panic-fueled Wikipedia binge than any kind of insight. Maher, meanwhile, sat frozen and unfazed, like a cryogenically chilled cucumber, watching Sunny's theatrics bounce off him like foam darts on concrete.
I want you to note the tone they all talk with him. I want you to look at Sunny Hostin's body language and the way they look at him and everything else. Just because he is a lefty who hasn't gone completely bananas, here they are talking about the word woke.
The term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and so
migrate.
why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice. Who's not for that? But words.
Bill Maher has been navigating ideological firestorms since the days of dial-up internet and AOL chat rooms. This kind of chaos is just another Tuesday for him. You could practically see the decades of media experience etched on his face, part amused, part tired, silently saying, "Really? We're doing this again?" Meanwhile, Sunny Hostin came in hot, launching an emotional offensive armed with loosely connected legal buzzwords. But Maher didn't bite. He stayed calm, watching her unravel like someone who's watched this show too many times to be surprised by the ending. Every time Sunny tried to pin Maher to a metaphorical cross of moral outrage, she looked convinced she was dropping the mic of the century. You could almost hear the imagined applause from Instagram accounts with names like @WokeQueenDaily. But Maher, he looked like he was already halfway into his third glass of wine, wondering what gate his flight was boarding from. Then there was Megyn Kelly. No drama, no shouting, just precise, cold logic. Her responses cut clean through Sunny's theatrics like a scalpel. She didn't come to argue, she came to dismantle. Sunny looked less like a legal expert and more like someone being methodically unmade, one cool, measured fact at a time.
Whoopi Goldberg was angry when Alyssa pointed out that Trump went to the funeral of Officer Diller.
Yes.
On Long Island, and Joe Biden went to a podcast. Look at Whoopi Goldberg's reaction.
Choose what you like there, but for Republicans, it was good imagery.
Really?
One day later, yes.
And I'm asking that because I was so offended because you know who showed up.
Yeah.
And he was, whether he was asked or not. This is a man who didn't care what happened to the officers on January 6th.
She promotes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris every day on that show. Trump wasn't supportive enough of the cops who were, yes, in danger on J 6th. How does that explain their behavior on a daily basis?
Sunny's approach on The View isn't about conversation, it's about performance. She enters the studio with the confidence of Moses descending from the mountaintop, armed with her own set of commandments. Any challenge to her views is met with moral superiority, as if questioning her is akin to blasphemy. It's not a debate, it's a one-woman show where she plays the role of judge, jury, and executioner. For Sunny, it's less about exchanging ideas and more about delivering an emotional sermon designed to guilt-trip anyone who dares to differ. And while her rants often lack substance, they are delivered with such dramatic flair that it feels like a performance rather than a genuine discussion. Ironically, her empowerment only seems to apply when everyone agrees with her. Anything else is met with outrage. It's a fascinating, if exhausting, display of moral certainty mixed with an inability to truly listen.
Last week you called white Republican women cockroaches.
Actually, I didn't. And
you said they're acting like cockroaches.
I used in a similar. Let me answer that.
Okay,
I used
so
a metaphor.
here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to tone it down a bit because I can't hear anything.
Let
No
me
one can hear
respond.
what's being
But she
said.
just said I called white women
understand why
roaches.
people-
All right, we're
because
going to
I
go to
didn't.
break. We're going to break. Can't take it.
The peak of Sunny's meltdown came when she couldn't hold her ground anymore and pivoted from intellectual defense to emotional offense. Instead of sticking to facts, she resorted to playing the victim, accusing her opponents of attacking her values. It wasn't a debate, it was a masterclass in how not to argue. When logic fails, Sunny turns to pure emotion. And when that falls apart, it's time for dramatic accusations. Bill Maher, however, wasn't fazed. Calm and collected, he simply pointed out the absurdity, sipped his drink, and watched Sunny spiral, leaving her clinging to whatever dignity she had left.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
What we witnessed wasn't just a verbal loss. It was the slow-motion collapse of a worldview that fell apart the second it faced unfiltered logic. Sunny wasn't physically crumbling, but mentally, you could see her thoughts short-circuiting. She came into that segment thinking she'd save democracy with courtroom theatrics and a loud voice. But instead, she was hit with humor, reason, and a brutal reminder that shouting doesn't equal intelligence. While her diehard fans might try to spin it as a brave stand, the rest of us saw it for what it really was. A high-heeled tantrum wrapped in buzzwords, desperately clinging to the illusion of moral superiority. In 2025, people aren't muting Sunny because they disagree. They're muting her because it feels like being lectured by a traffic light with a law degree. The world is tired of confusion disguised as enlightenment. Not every joke is hate speech, not every disagreement is an attack on humanity, and not every panel needs to turn into a courtroom run by someone who thinks sarcasm is violence. Despite her flailing, the undeniable truth was clear. Sunny Hostin got roasted live on TV, and the result? Overexposure.